Assalamu alaikum. On behalf of Ahsan Academy, let me welcome you to a presentation on the general anatomy of lymphatic system. This presentation will include a general idea on the circulation, then how the lymph is formed, and a schematic presentation on the lymphatic circulation. Lymphoid organs will be discussed in another presentation. There are different types of circulations. The blood circulates through a vascular system, and this blood is circulating because of the heart who pumps the blood in the vessels, and again it receives the blood to pump it again, and this is blood circulatory system. In the process of circulation of the blood at the level of the tissue, a certain amount of fluid remains there, and this extra tissue fluid is collected by another vascular system. This is known as lymphatic circulatory system. So this lymphatic circulatory system starts in the tissue, collects the lymph, and it returns back to the blood again. Besides this, cerebrospinal fluid is around and inside the brain that circulates within a limited area. More limited area is occupied by aqueous humor within the eye, and this has some circulation, and it is formed and reabsorbed, so maintain a circulation there. So of these four types of circulation, blood circulation is the master circulation, and lymphatic circulation also spread throughout the body except some special areas. So today I will discuss this lymphatic circulatory system. You can see this is the capillary of the blood vessels, and from here the lymph is formed, collected by some other types of lymphatic capillaries that passes through some filtering organ, and lymph node is the filtering organs. There are many in number in the body, and finally this filtered lymph returns. You can see this is a container with water. This is having several opening at different level. So the water height, water column pressure is less here, relatively more for this, and maximum for this opening. So because of the change of pressure, the flow strength is different. So this is called hydrostatic pressure, pressure of the water column. Pressure exerted by the water, flowing water, is also known as hydrostatic pressure. You consider in a different way, this is water containing bucket. Within this, a container is there full of some molecules or larger particles that has osmotic capability. So if the covering of the content, the wall of the content is permeable, then water will enter into this vessel because of the more sucking pressure created by these particles. This is known as osmotic pressure. So osmotic pressure sucks the fluid or water inside or towards that, and hydrostatic pressure pushes it away from the container. With this knowledge, let us discuss how the lymph is formed. This is arteriole, we know. We can say this is main arteriole, and this one is the precapillary sphincter. So crossing that, blood enters into the capillary bed. There is total volume of the blood is there. So the pressure exerted by the water is more. So it is flowing blood shows more hydrostatic pressure. This pushes the fluid into the interstitial space out of the wall of the capillary. So this will try to come out, the total plasma will try to come out, and this fluid pressure is gradually reduces, and that fluid also carries nutrient and other chemical dissolved substance, also suspended substance, to the extracellular space through the wall. But capillary wall is relatively impermeable to plasma protein. So plasma proteins are larger molecule that remains. So water fluid is reduced, so concentration of the plasma protein increases distally. So the osmotic pressure rises. So distal part, when this capillary blood enters into the venous end of the capillary, the hydrostatic pressure remains more. So fluid that is coming out of the capillary and remaining in the interstitial fluid enters reabsorbed into the venous part of the capillary. So most of the fluid is returning, and this is carrying waste product and carbon dioxide from the interstitial space, and the blood volume is increased. But look at the word most of the fluid. So all of the fluid that is coming out are not returning back. So certain amount of lymph fluid that remains within the interstitial space. Another vessel starts from there, that is similar to the capillary, and this is blind ended, starts in the interstitial space. So the extra fluid can enter into this, and pressure within the interstitial space remains same. So this extra fluid entering into the vessels is the lymph. So here you can see this is the interstitial space. If we consider that certain amount of fluid have stained green has remaining within the interstitial space, so that gradually enters into the vessels. So the interstitial space become as usual, and the fluid is now within the vessel. This is the lymph. In this way, the lymph is formed. You see, this process is explained by a hypothesis. This is known as Starling hypothesis. So lymph is formed, and this is explained by the Starling hypothesis, and that I have mentioned here in a sequence. So lymph starts from the interstitial space after entering into the capillary. So capillary, in the capillary we can identify the lymph. That lymph enters into larger vessels which are formed by the fusion of these capillaries. So that passes through a filtration system. This is formed by the network of lymph nodes. So this is filtered there. Now the filtered lymph enters into the venous blood again. So this is the continuous circulation and draining the lymph. So this lymphatic system or lymphatic circulation has three components. The lymph, that lymph is entering into the vessels, and some organs are related to this lymphatic system. So these are known as lymphatic organs. So we will not cover these lymphatic organs in this presentation. This will be discussed in some other presentations. What are the functions of lymph? You see, some amount of fluid is remaining within the interstitial space, and this amount is not less. In per day, about 8 liters remain there. So this large volume of water or fluid is returned back to the blood, and by this way the fluid is balanced. So returning excess amount of fluid that is accumulating every time within the interstitial fluid is returned by this lymphatic system. If it would have not been there, one type of disease occurs. This is known as elephantiasis. Here you can see the elephantiasis of lower limb that can occur in other places also. This while returning into the vessels, this fluid takes back certain amount of dissolved and non-dissolved substances, also cellular debris, back into this from the interstitial space to the fluid, so that it can carry to a proper place for utilization or excretion. Fat is absorbed in the intestine through this villi, and at the center of the villi there is a special type of lymphatic capillary known as lacteal. This lacteal collects this fat molecules along with some fluids, and this is the lymph. It is carried as in the form of lymph and taken to the cisterna chyli. From there it is taken back to the circulation. Defensive mechanism, and it's related to that mechanism. It is working as a filter, as well as it is responsible for cellular and humoral immunity. Lymph is a fluid, and it enters into the blind-ended capillaries, and then it is known as the lymph. Before that, this was considered as interstitial fluid. So when it enters into the capillary, this is almost a clear fluid and watery in nature, and depending on the fat content, it becomes yellower. So the lymph formed in the intestine are more milky in nature, very concentrated because of the fat. This is similar to the plasma in nature elsewhere, and generally composed of some certain amount of protein, salt, glucose, fats, and amount varies from place to place, along with some white blood cells in water media. Per day, about 8 liters of lymphs are formed. The lymphatic capillary starts as a blind-end tube. This is a bit different from the capillaries. They are with the larger caliber. You see, they starts as a blind end, but capillary is a continuous vessel, starts from the arterial end and continue as the venous end. These are larger caliber in nature and irregular than the blood capillaries. It is very close to the sinusoids, but sinusoids, this is still thinner than the sinusoids. The capillary endothelium is there, but basal lamella is absent. They are very, very permeable, and even more permeable than any types of blood capillary. You can see this is more irregular yellow. Lymphatic vessels are formed by the union of the capillaries and union of minute vessels. They gradually become larger and larger. So they are distributed in the superficial set and deeper sets. Superficial sets, they are more numerous and they make free anastomosis, and their number is more than veins. They follow the venous direction and eventually they drain into the deeper vessels. The deep lymphatic vessels receive these superficial sets of lymphs and also receive from different organs. They accompany usually the arteries. Let us discuss the distribution of the lymphatic vessels. Lymphatic vessels are distributed in two sets, the superficial sets and the deep sets. This is the vessels, very minute vessels combined together to form larger and larger vessels, and this largest one is known as lymphatic trunk or ducts. Ultimately, these trunks and ducts open into the venous circulation. They are having valves. So the valve number of the valves increases with the size of the lymphatic vessels. Finally, they become the right lymphatic duct for the right side, and so lymphatics are formed in the capillary. So first lymph appear in the capillary, then it passes to the lymphatic vessels of the minute size, then they merge together to become the larger one. These vessels takes the lymph to the regional lymph nodes. Every area is guarded by lymph and it forms a series. So this drains the lymph into the lymph nodes. There may be several lymph nodes in the pathway in a single group. Lymph may cross these lymph nodes and enter into another set of lymph vessels that may end into another group of lymph node or may drain into larger duct. In another group, it may pass through several lymph nodes. And finally, these larger vessels are formed which are known as duct or trunk that carries the lymph to the venous circulation. So this is the schematic presentation of the lymphatic. Lymphatic circulations are absent in some places. You can easily imagine that avascular structure not having any blood circulation, so there is no questions of formation of lymph there. So this type of area not having the lymphatic circulation. Important place is the cartilages, epidermis, hair, nail and cornea. These are the avascular places, so not having any lymphatic circulations. Some areas that is vascular but still not having lymphatics, the nervous tissue and the bone marrow. In places the lymphatic circulation is very poor, like skeletal muscle. Inside, each fiber is covered by endomysium. This is a thin connective tissue sheet. This area is not having. How the lymph circulates? You see, there is no direct pump system here. In blood circulatory system, the heart works as the pump, and this is indirect force. So, what are the major factors that has positive role creating the positive pressure in the flow of lymph? You see, every time there is new lymph is formed, so there is a back pressure of the newly formed fluid that tries to enter into the lymphatic capillary. So this filtration pressure of the tissue space is creating the first thrust. You see, the blood vessels run through the muscle, nearby the muscle. So whenever there is contraction of the muscle, the surrounding pressure increases, who creates a pressure over the larger lymphatic vessels, and as these lymphatic vessels are guarded by valves, and these valves divide this vessel into small segments. So each segment under pressure will push the lymph to the proximally, because the valve allows unidirectional flow. Artery is always creating some pulse, so it dilates and collapses. So it always creates a pressure of the surrounding vessels, lymphatic vessels too. So it is a positive pressure over the veins and the lymphatics. Respiratory movement, you see, causes a negative pressure within the thoracic cavity. So this negative pressure pulls the air from outside, as well as the venous blood from or lymphatics from the different parts of the body in the thorax. The larger ducts and trunks contain some amount of smooth muscle in its wall that can contract and push the lymph to its proximal direction. Let us discuss the final destination of the lymph. This is the area marking showing that the left side is larger area and right side is smaller area. Right side area includes the right part of the head, neck, the thorax and right upper limb. Left side, rest of the body is following the left side. This is the vein here you are seeing is enlarged here. So this is superior vena cava formed by the right and left brachiocephalic vein, and this is the left brachiocephalic vein formation by the left internal jugular and left subclavian. Similarly, on the right side, it is formed by the right internal jugular and right subclavian. This is right brachiocephalic vein. So this is the junction between subclavian and internal jugular. Now the left side is larger area and right side is a smaller area. Right side is, this is left side, and left side is finally drained by the thoracic duct, who receives left jugular trunk, left subclavian trunk and left brachiomediastinal. You say these are the three trunks draining into the thoracic duct. Thoracic duct collect the lymph from the limb's abdomen and receives these three, who are collecting the jugular from the head neck region, subclavian from the limb and bronchiomediastinal from the chest and part of the limb, upper limb. Similar larger trunks are there on the right side, right lymphatic ducts, and these open into the right lymphatic ducts. The right lymphatic ducts is ultimately formed by all these three. You see, this is the right jugular trunk carrying from the above, this is right subclavian carrying from the limb, upper limb, and this is from the thorax and part of the limb, opening into and making a larger duct that is known as right lymphatic duct. On the left side you can see this is the thoracic duct. On the way it is receiving from the thorax, going to the neck, curving round, and it is receiving from the head, neck and from the upper limb, and this is finally opening into this region that is known as jugulo-subclavian venous junction. So the lymph is finally joining the venous circulation, and this final duct is opening at jugulo-subclavian venous junction.